Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about the cost, the true cost of the American dream. So let's do it. I wanted to talk about the real cost of the American dream, but specifically talking about my own experience, how I lived through it, what it means to me. And I'm sure there will be so many other people out there, other dreamers that could possibly relate to this story. So, to tell you a little bit about what this cost means to me, I have to begin by telling you a little bit about my childhood. So, growing up in Mexico, I grew up in a very, very normal childhood setting. You know, I am from a very traditional Mexican family. So, family was a huge, important thing that we cherished, that we celebrated always. So, growing up, I grew up with a sense of freedom that also included a lot of innocence. So, for me, my idea of having fun was getting together with the kids in the block, you know, and creating a play in the spot with whatever we had around us. It was me joining my cousins for a walk into, you know, the mountains or, you know, just the wilderness around. It was very, very enjoyable. I have many amazing experiences growing up in Mexico that I will cherish forever. So, when the idea of the American dream came into our family, my father had started this conversation, I believe, with my grandparents, his parents, and my mother. And for him, the idea of the American dream, like many others, is that of providing a better future for his family, right? And that was what he was focusing on. He wanted to come to the US to work for a few months, gather some money, and hopefully it would take his family to a better economic position. And so he talked about it, and eventually he decided to come into the U.S. At that moment in time, I believe I was too young to remember, probably 5 or 6, that he decided to come into the U.S. and leave his family behind. So that was probably one of the costs. I didn't get to grow up with a father figure, even though I was very young, so I don't remember much of the details of how it went down. But my father basically came to the US. He worked for periods of time, and he was going back and forth, you know, because it was also hard for him to put so much distance and time between him and his family that he wanted to make it work somehow. And every time, of course, he would put his life in danger. So at some point, it was just not a good idea. But that cost me the opportunity to live with a father figure, right? My relationship with my father was never fully grown because he took off when I was so very young, and that hindered our relationship, and it carried through my young adult and now adult years, and it was tough. I didn't notice it that much because my grandfather, from my father's side of the family, he took over that role, right? He raised me and my brother, and he took over the role of the father figure. He taught me respect, he taught me tradition, culture, family, values. he taught me a lot growing up. You know, it was very important for me to have that figure, and he did an amazing job to just be there as a father, as a man, to tell us, to teach us little boys what life was really about, and you know, how to be better human beings, and that was amazing. So yeah, that started to happen, and then a few years passed, and of course the distance and the time that it required for my father to be in the U.S. working, it just got to be too long and too much, right? So my mom wasn't happy. She obviously noticed that there was not a relationship happening with his kids, you know, as time passed. So then she decided it was probably a good idea for her to join my father in the US, to join forces, to gather the money that they wanted to be financially secure. And then maybe if she was there, it would just speed up the process, right? So that she did. And I feel like that was one of the biggest struggles and one other cost that I had to deal with as a young boy. I didn't have much to say as a kid on what the decisions were made by the adults, right? But for me and my brother, my mother had always been there. She saw us grow up, she raised us, she was our pillar, you know? She was our everything. And so when she decided to join my father, although I think it was from a very good place of just giving us the opportunity of a better life, which that was always the objective here, it still was very, very tough, because I had to say goodbye to my mother. She eventually ended up leaving for almost 2 years. She was away from us. So that cost me my relationship with my mom. When they returned, unfortunately, even though we were in contact by phone, she would call. They both would call pretty much every day. It's not the same thing as having a relationship with a person that is right there, as opposed to just hearing them through the phone. You know, just their voices. It wasn't the same. So that hindered our relationship. When they both returned, I honestly felt like I was meeting strangers for the first time. So I was at that point about 10 years old. My brother was 9. And it was just very weird to be in that situation. So, you know, we worked it out. Unfortunately, it was never the same. Something was broken that just couldn't be put together the same way as it was before. And I love my parents. Our relationship is better than ever right now. Like, I see them very often, and I love them both. But at that time, it was very tough. So when that happened, my mom took off. She was away for 2 years. She came back to me. My parents were now strangers. We developed or started to work on a relationship again. And a year later, it was decided that we all as a family would come to the US, because it was the best option for us to thrive. Now my little sister was in the mix, so she was barely like a year old, and yeah, we essentially had to say goodbye to my country, my culture, my comfort zone, and once again say goodbye to my grandparents that have raised me, and we took off and never looked back. So for me, the true cost of the American dream, the hardest, toughest, most expensive cost it has had on me is that it has broken so many relationships for me. I've lost relationships. I've lost, that comfort zone. It took away my childhood. I think I was like, I had to grow up very fast, very soon when we decided to come into the U.S. as a family. Overnight, I had to just be an adult, right? 10, 11 years old. So for me, the American dream has cost me a lot emotionally, in relationships. It has hindered my ability to let new people in to my life, to my space, to my heart, and it has created a huge challenge for me just to be open to being vulnerable with new people. It is something that I'm still working on, and I am getting so much better every time I sit here and talk to you guys. So thank you again for listening and for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I think I will end this video here. This is probably going to be an ongoing conversation, but for me this is the biggest one that I had to pay, if you would, for me to have this opportunity of the American dream. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you on the next video. But remember, dreamers, keep on dreaming. See ya. Thank you so much for joining me again for another video. If you like this, make sure to give it a thumbs up, give it a like, share, comment, and just start to add to this conversation. I want to hear from you what you think about this video, and if you think there's people that are gonna benefit from this video, make sure you send it their way. So till next time, thank you, bye bye.